Chapter 1. After confirming her pregnancy, Diana Lee's first action was to have a lawyer draft a divorce agreement. Miss Lee, as long as both parties sign, the marriage will automatically be dissolved after a 1-month cooling-off period. Diana's expression was calm. May I sign on behalf of the male party? The lawyer was slightly taken aback and quickly shook his head. That's not possible. He must be present in person. He agrees to the divorce, but he's too busy with work to come over. If you don't believe me, I can call him to speak with you. After saying that, she took out her phone and dialed Jason's number. Jason, there's something I want to discuss with you. Before I could finish speaking, I was interrupted by his cold, icy voice. Didn't I say that you should make your own decisions about everything? I don't have time to deal with your trivial matters. Immediately, a coquettish voice from Victoria came from beside him. Jason, you're appealing too quickly. I can't finish eating it all. Then the phone was abruptly hung up. She smiled at the lawyer and said, I told you so. The lawyer furrowed his brow but ultimately agreed to her request. After signing the papers, Diana felt a great sense of relief. She returned home. Her spirits lifted, and took out her collection of picture frames to carefully wipe them clean. As the maid passed by, she saw her wiping the picture frame again and quietly gathered with others to discuss. Our lady loves her husband too much. She has to look at his photo many times every day, and that picture frame is taken out for cleaning every single day. What good is love? The husband doesn't like her and has always been cold towards her. Yes, when Victoria was abroad, he often flew over to see her. Now that she's back in the country, he spends every day with her and hardly returns home. The maid's tone carried sympathy, but Diana didn't take those words to heart at all, because the person in the photo is not Jason, and the person she likes has never been him. The reason she married Jason was simply because he had the same face as Martin. Jason and Martin are identical twins. She and Martin fell in love in college, and they promised to introduce her to his family after graduation and then get married. Unexpectedly, at that moment, he passed away in an accident. It happened so suddenly that he didn't even have a last word, and she lost her love forever. Having experienced such a wonderful love from Martin, she knew she could never love anyone else in her lifetime, so she only wanted to have a child who looked like him to accompany her through the rest of her life, and his brother Jason was the best choice. Since then, she began to approach Jason, doing many crazy things to pursue him. At that time, Jason's crush Victoria was just going abroad, and facing the relentless pressure from his family to marry, he simply agreed to Diana's proposal. However, he set a condition: she could have anything she wanted, but he would never love her. Faced with such a somewhat humiliating condition, she agreed without hesitation. Jason thought she loved him too much, so he didn't think much of it. On the day of the wedding, he stood her up without hesitation, leaving her at the wedding venue with just a message that he had caught a cold for Victoria. After the marriage, he frequently flew abroad every week to see Victoria, even having Diana buy the plane tickets. The bed in the marital home was filled with photos of Victoria. The study was stuffed with pictures prepared for Victoria, and even the garden behind the villa was planted with flowers that Victoria liked. All these incidents turned Diana into a complete joke in their social circle, but she never cared, simply playing her role as a wife quietly. The only obsession is that she will hold on to all the days he is at home and share a bed with him. Jason thought that she loved him deeply, just as he loved Victoria. He loved Victoria intensely, because he cherished her so much. Despite being a favored child of heaven, he was afraid of losing her and did not dare to confess his feelings. As a result, in the end, she ended up going abroad with someone else. Diana never explains, because there is no need. Now she is already pregnant. Her goal has been achieved, and it is time to leave. Chapter 2. The next morning, Jason, who had not returned for a long time, appeared at home. The first time he saw her, he went straight to the point and said, "Is your chicken noodle soup really good?" Before Diana could speak, he immediately continued, "Victoria wants some. Hurry up and make it, and let's take it over together." She raised her eyes, about to refuse, but her gaze fell precisely on the watch on his wrist. She instantly changed her mind. "Okay, I will make it to her satisfaction, but you have to give me your watch." Jason was unfazed, directly taking off the watch from his wrist and placing it in front of her. Take it. This kind of transaction between the two is not the first time. He often makes her do things for Victoria. Either he asks her to help book her flight tickets, or he makes her stand in line to buy snacks that Victoria likes. Sometimes he even asks her to pick out gifts for Victoria. She never refuses. She only asks him for some compensation. This compensation is either a pen he has used for a long time, a watch, or a book. The items are not valuable. They are just things he has used for a long time. Seeing her treasure the watch as she puts it into the box, Jason couldn't help but ask, "Do you love me that much? Do you want to collect everything of mine?" Diana's actions paused, knowing he must have misunderstood. Over the years, what she asked him for were actually all Martin's. After he passed away, all his belongings were collected by Jason. In memory of him, Jason often keeps them close. Diana collecting these items was merely a way to reminisce about him. She didn't explain, just smiled. "Yes, I really do love." The words "your brother" were hidden in her heart and left unspoken. For some reason, it was the first time Jason was touched by the love in her eyes. Unconsciously recalling her efforts over the years, he felt a bit disoriented. He furrowed his brows, took a while to come back to his senses, and then immediately returned to his usual cold demeanor, telling her to hurry up and make the soup. After making the soup, the two set off together to the hospital to see Victoria. In the car, Jason suddenly remembered that she had called him yesterday and took the initiative to ask, "What did you want to discuss with me yesterday?" Diana held the soup and looked out the window, answering casually, "It's not anything important. I've already made my own decision." He gently hummed in response and then said, "Victoria has been hospitalized with a cold recently. I need to take care of her, so please don't bother me with many things." Diana still nodded obediently, her expression showing not a trace of displeasure. Looking at her like this, Jason thought back to the years when she never opposed any of his requests. Did she really love him that much? To love someone to such an extent that she could watch him be kind to another woman without a word. Upon arriving at the hospital, the two appeared in front of Victoria together. Seeing Diana, Victoria looked shocked. "I just mentioned it casually, and Jason actually brought you here." Diana put down the thermos, took out a bowl to serve her soup, and said, "He took your casual mention to heart." Hearing her speak for herself, Jason was quite surprised, but he felt not a shred of joy in his heart. He didn't understand why he felt this uncomfortable sensation. He simply stood up, snatched the bowl from her hand, and issued an eviction order. "You should go back first. I'm enough here." Diana didn't say anything more, picked up her bag, and turned to leave. As she closed the door, she saw Jason holding a bowl of soup, gently feeding Victoria. "Come on, drink slowly. It's hot. And I also bought the Rui cake that you like." Victoria exclaimed in surprise, "This Rui cake has to be run 3 streets. You actually bought it for me." She closed the door and left without looking back. Chapter 3. In the days that followed, just as Jason had said, he did not leave the hospital for a moment in order to take care of Victoria. Even if the company has urgent matters to handle, it is the assistant who takes the computer and documents to the hospital and delivers them to him. Whatever fruit she wanted to eat, he immediately dispatched a private jet to purchase it from abroad, then airlifted it back to the country, washed it clean, and delivered it to her dining table, to reward her for eating more, give her a gold bar for each bite. Such news occupied the headlines for several days, and Diana only smiled calmly. On the day of Capital University's centennial celebration, Diana was invited as an outstanding graduate from previous years. Upon arriving at the school gate and signing in, she immediately spotted a particularly dazzling presence in the crowd. Jason and Victoria actually came too. The two had already noticed her, and she could only walk up to them. Victoria actively greeted her. "Miss Lee is also a graduate of Capital University?" She nodded, and Jason furrowed his brow, then asked, "Which graduating class?" She answered truthfully, "Class of 2017. Now it was Victoria's turn to be shocked. "So you were in the same class as Jason's brother. Does Miss Lee know Jason's brother? I heard that back then Martin was dating a girl, treating her like a treasure." and was going to bring her home to meet his parents. But unfortunately, as she spoke, her voice suddenly stopped. Realizing she had said the wrong thing, Victoria hurriedly apologized to Jason. Martin's death had always been a taboo in the Bai family, and everyone had worked hard to cover up the scar, never allowing it to be mentioned lightly, and Diana forced herself to suppress the trembling of her body, her fingers digging painfully into her palm hidden in her sleeve, her chest feeling as if it were being squeezed by an invisible hand, making it almost impossible for her to breathe. Jason's expression was also somewhat unpleasant, but because it was Victoria, he couldn't bring himself to blame her, changing the subject to suggest that they had shopped enough and should go out to eat. The three of them went to the restaurant together, and when ordering, to accommodate Victoria's taste, all the dishes on the table were her favorites. During the meal, Jason was especially attentive to her, peeling shells for her, cutting her steak, and even carefully removing the bones from the fish before placing it in front of her. Halfway through her meal, she went to the restroom and just happened to overhear Victoria on the phone in the stall. Diana was not interested in her privacy and was about to knock on the door to remind her, but she just happened to hear her mention Jason's name. Of course, I wouldn't do that. How could Jason be so devoted to me? Are you talking about his wife? What kind of wife is she? Everyone knows how Jason has treated her over the years. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I'm much more skilled at the art of seduction than you are. As long as I pretend not to know about his feelings for me, we can keep this ambiguous relationship going, and he will become more and more attached to me until he can't live without me. The harder it is to obtain, the more precious it becomes. Do you understand? It turns out that Victoria has always held this thought in her heart. Diana smiled slightly, realizing that her white moonlight was not so pure and kind after all. The door opened, and Victoria walked out, immediately seeing Diana organizing clothes at the sink. Her expression changing instantly, she bit her lip and stiffly asked, "When did you arrive? How much did you hear?" Diana remained silent, and she quickly added, "You'd better not go to Jason and say anything reckless. He won't believe you." Watching her change her expression, Diana felt utterly bored. She wiped her hands clean and was about to leave when Victoria suddenly grabbed her hand from behind. She was caught off guard, watching helplessly as she slammed into the wall and then collapsed on the ground, starting to cry. The commotion caused by the two immediately attracted Jason, who hurried over to see Victoria with a swollen forehead, lying on the ground in tears. Meanwhile, Diana stood aloof, looking extremely indifferent. He rushed forward, pulling Victoria into his arms, and then shot a sharp glare at Diana. "Did you push her?" Before she could explain, Victoria was the first to cry out, "Jason, my head hurts. Miss Lee, she seems to really dislike me." Seeing her in pain, Jason felt a deep ache in his heart. He held her and started to walk out, while Diana tried to leave but was suddenly pushed hard by him. She was standing on the stairs, and with one misstep, she tumbled down. The world before her spun wildly, and Diana felt as if all her bones were about to fall apart. She weakly sat up, her hands pressing against the ground, instantly covered in sticky fresh blood. Thinking of the child in her belly, she trembled and cried out, "Jason, don't go. Call 120 for me." The man on the steps looked down from above, his gaze cold and fierce, daring to lay hands on Victoria. "This is your lesson." After saying that, he embraced Victoria and left without looking back. Watching the man's figure completely disappear, her heart ached as if it were about to break. She could endure any kind of injury, but her child must not be harmed. The blood on the ground was increasing, the glaring red making her more and more panicked. A strong sense of despair completely engulfed her. She trembled as she struggled to pull out her mobile phone from her pocket and dialed 120. After using all her strength to state the address, she could no longer hold on and completely fainted. During this long period of time, it seemed like she was dreaming. In the dream, Martin was by her side as he used to be, gentle and caring. He gently stroked her belly, his tone full of affection. "Diana, is the baby in your belly a boy or a girl? No matter if it's a boy or a girl, I will love it. When the baby is born, does it look more like Diana or more like me?" "It looks more like Diana, because Diana is the prettiest." In the sunlight, his face was so clear, as if he had never left her. She trembled as she reached out, wanting to touch his cheek, but only felt the cold air. When she opened her eyes again, she was already in the hospital. The injured area was already wrapped in bandages, and the doctor was nearby changing her dressings. Seeing her awake, he spoke with urgency and concern. "You are pregnant. How could you fall from such a high step? Fortunately, you were lucky. The child is safe. Have your partner come to handle the paperwork." Diana stared blankly at the ceiling. "I have no partner. My partner has already passed away." In the next moment, the hospital door was pushed open forcefully, and Jason looked at her with a sullen face. "Who are you saying is dead?" Chapter 4. The doctor thought the couple was just arguing and quickly advised, "Please don't argue for now. Your wife's belly." The conversation was not yet finished. Diana suddenly sat up and interrupted, saying, "Doctor, didn't you say you were going to get me some medicine?" The doctor was taken aback for a moment, said nothing more, and turned to leave. Jason looked at her again. "The doctor just said something about your stomach." "What's wrong with your stomach?" Diana casually found an excuse and replied, "It's nothing. The doctor just said there are injuries on my stomach." His expression stiffened slightly, and his tone remained cold. "If you hadn't laid hands on Victoria, naturally you wouldn't have fallen down the stairs and gotten hurt. This matter was your fault first. Go apologize to Victoria." Diana shook her head. "I did nothing wrong. Why should I apologize to her? The restaurant has surveillance. If you go check, you will know the truth." Jason's expression darkened. "I don't need to see the surveillance footage. I only trust Victoria." "You must apologize." After going through such a tumultuous experience, Diana was already very exhausted. She just wanted to take good care of her pregnancy and adjust her body, so she was unwilling to entangle with him any further. With a sense of helplessness, she asked, "If I apologize, will you let me go?" Hearing her almost helpless words, Jason couldn't help but feel some doubt in his heart. He sensed that something was off, yet he still nodded. Diana said nothing more and directly got up to walk to Victoria's hospital room, looking at her calmly as she spoke. "I'm sorry." After saying that, she turned to look at Jason. "Is it okay now?" Then, without waiting for his response, she turned and left, leaving the visibly upset Jason standing there. It was strange. Even after apologizing, he still seemed unhappy. During her hospital stay, she often heard from the medical staff how considerate and gentle Jason was towards Victoria. Clearly, her injuries were not severe, yet he had the best doctor in the city assigned to her side. Whatever she wanted to eat, he personally fed it to her, and even when she needed to use the restroom, he carried her to the door. Diana ignored this, focusing solely on taking good care of her baby. On the day she was discharged, after completing all the examinations, the doctor specifically told her that the baby was very healthy. She stroked her belly and asked the doctor a question: "If the child is born from twin brothers, will they look very similar?" This question was a bit strange. The doctor was taken aback for a moment and then replied, "It depends on the genes. If the paternal genes are prominent, it is very likely." She breathed a sigh of relief, thanked the doctor, and then turned to leave. Unexpectedly, just as she reached the hospital entrance, she ran into Victoria, who was also being discharged today. By her side was Jason, and upon seeing Diana, Victoria returned to her former innocent self, smiling and greeting her. "Miss Lee, I won't hold a grudge about what happened before. Let's just be friends from now on." To celebrate my discharge from the hospital, Jason organized a gathering. "Come with us." After saying that, she took no further argument and directly pulled her into the car. When they arrived at the private room, their friends were already there. Throughout the entire gathering, Jason was as attentive to Victoria as one could be. He peeled fruit for her, shielded her from drinks, and draped his coat over her legs, making everyone around them envious. On the contrary, the protagonist Diana never looked at them once from beginning to end. Later, everyone suggested playing a game, where the loser could choose between truth or dare or drinking. In the middle of the game, Diana lost a round. Earlier, Victoria lost, and it was Jason who drank for her. But Diana knew that in front of everyone, he would definitely not help her, so she decisively chose to tell the truth. A busybody glanced at Victoria and, knowing the triangular relationship among them, deliberately asked with a smile, "Is the person you like here?" Diana did not look up, calmly took a sip of the juice in front of her. Not present. Chapter 5. Everyone on the field was momentarily stunned, not expecting her to give such an answer. Everyone in the circle knew that she was Jason's fangirl, having always catered to his every need since marrying him. Now, in front of everyone, she actually said that the person she liked was not present. Wasn't that a slap in his face? Jason's expression was even worse. His face was ashen, and he downed several drinks. In the following games, he kept losing round after round because he couldn't stop thinking about Diana's words. His brothers, wanting to support him, all suggested looking at his photo album and WeChat favorites. The result was not surprising. His photo album was filled entirely with Victoria's pictures. Some of her were happy, some silent, and some were just her silhouette. The person pinned at the top of his WeChat was naturally only her. He was absent-minded, completely unaware that his actions were equivalent to publicly revealing his secret affection for Victoria. Beside him, Victoria's face grew increasingly red as she lowered her head, looking at him with longing. "Jason, I didn't expect you to feel this way about me." The words that followed seemed too shy to be spoken, and no one pressed for more. When it was time to disperse, she took the initiative to make a request to Jason. "Jason, recently it has been a bit unsafe outside my house, and the security has been patrolling for several days without finding anything. Can you come and stay with me for a few days?" Everyone else was making a fuss, but Diana said nothing, simply eating her fruit plate with a fork. Victoria was willing to put on a show for her. She just watched. Unexpectedly, the usually obedient Jason actually refused her request for the first time. "Victoria, I have some matters to attend to. Can I come to keep you company later?" After saying that, he directly had the driver take Victoria away, then took Diana's hand and got into the car. There was a heavy silence, and the atmosphere was unusually cold. After arriving home, Jason realized that the house was filled with the smell of traditional Chinese medicine. In order to ensure a safe pregnancy, Diana had been drinking herbal medicine these days. He hadn't noticed it before, but at that moment he was very sensitive and immediately detected the smell. He looked at her with a scrutinizing gaze. "What exactly are you taking? 3 meals a day without fail?" Diana felt a bit guilty and tried to sound calm. "It's for nourishing my body. I might need to drink it for a while longer. Why don't you go stay at Victoria's place for now? This way, you won't have to smell this unpleasant odor, and it will also help protect her." Jason was stunned. Although she had been diligent and uncomplaining all these years, not caring about his feelings for Victoria, it was still the first time he heard her actively push herself closer to her. Clearly, he should feel relieved. But for some reason, at this moment, his heart felt inexplicably heavy. Suddenly, he realized something and instantly understood everything. "Are you jealous?" "So the way I answered while playing games today was also because I was jealous that I've been taking care of Victoria lately and neglecting you?" At this point, he inexplicably breathed a sigh of relief. "When we got married, I told you that my heart belongs to someone else. I can give you a title, but I cannot give you love. Moreover, the last incident was your fault, and it is only right for me to take care of her. Stop throwing a tantrum. You have always wanted the sculpture in my study, right? Consider it a gift." Diana originally wanted to explain, but upon hearing this, she changed her mind. That sculpture was handcrafted by Martin as a birthday gift for him. For all these years, she has wanted it and asked him many times, but he has never been willing to part with it. I didn't expect that today he would actually be willing to give her, so she nodded and gently said, "I understand. I won't cause trouble anymore." Seeing her say this, Jason smirked a little, thinking to himself, as expected. At this moment, Victoria's phone rang again. This time, he no longer hesitated and directly turned to leave. Chapter 6. In the following days, he indeed did not come back. Instead, Victoria would send her messages and photos every few days. Some of the photos were of him cooking in the kitchen, Some were videos of him playing the piano for her, and some were scenes of him tidying up her house. Victoria sent these photos over, simply wanting to tell her how much Jason loves her and pampers her. On ordinary days, receiving these photos left her feeling unfazed, not even stirring a ripple in her heart. On Martin's birthday, she looked at those photos and suddenly fell into sadness. When Martin was still alive, he treated himself with such tenderness. Since he left, there has been no one in this world who loves himself as much as he did. She made a cake, placed it on the table, and opened again the photos posted by Victoria on her moments. Images of Martin and herself together kept surfacing in her mind. Looking at Jason's face, which was almost identical to his, made her feel even more melancholic. She leaned on the table, closed her eyes, and let the tears flow freely. When Jason returned, he happened to see her holding her mobile phone, asleep with tear-streaked cheeks. He was taken aback and walked closer to see that there was a cake on the table. She actually remembered her own birthday, and she even knew that he liked matcha flavor. In the past, he always celebrated his birthday with Martin because their parents favored his older brother, so they had never prepared a cake just for him. After his brother passed away, he never celebrated his birthday again, and no one remembered it. In the past, he was never home at this time. Could it be that she secretly celebrated her birthday every year? He sat down beside her but accidentally bumped into her mobile phone. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the photos on the screen. He gently took the phone and opened the photo album, which contained thousands of pictures, all of which were of him. There were pictures of his back, his profile, some with him smiling, and others with him deep in thought with his eyes closed. He flipped to the last page of the album and saw that the oldest photo was taken 8 years ago, while the most recent one was from 3 years ago. In that moment, he couldn't articulate what he felt inside. His thoughts were complex, filled with shock, emotion, and surprisingly, a hint of secret delight. I didn't expect that Diana had secretly loved him for so many years. At this moment, Diana heard a noise and woke up. Seeing Jason holding her mobile phone, she hurriedly got up to grab it. Jason thought she was just embarrassed because her secret was exposed, and said in a stiff tone, "Who told you to celebrate my birthday? Don't you know I never celebrate my birthday?" She was taken aback, realizing that he had misunderstood. Jason did not pay attention to her gaze. He just brought the cake in front of himself. "Only this once. There will be no next time. Please help me light the candles." At this point, she can only make the best of a bad situation. So, she gently lit the candles, sang him a birthday song, cut the cake, and watched as his eyes were filled with love. Anyway, his face looks exactly like Martin's, so she just pretended she was celebrating Martin's birthday. Chapter 7. Since that birthday, Jason seems to have changed quite a bit. Although he still spends most of his time with Victoria, he almost goes home every day. Even though the two often do not speak, he always needs to make his presence felt in front of her. That day, Jason left, and Diana inadvertently glanced at the documents he brought back, which turned out to be a brochure from the auction house. The manual states that this auction item includes a crystal ball. This crystal ball was originally intended by Martin for her, with the initials of their names engraved on the embedded gemstones. I don't know how this crystal ball ended up at the auction house, because it was intended as a gift for her. He did not make it known, and outsiders were unaware of its origins. Looking at the pictures in the manual, Diana's eyes unconsciously filled with a layer of mist. She must get this crystal ball. She hurriedly changed her clothes and rushed to the auction house, only to find that Jason and Victoria were also there. Upon seeing her arrive, Jason was somewhat surprised. Before they could greet each other, the auction had already begun. After taking their seats, Victoria naturally leaned on Jason's shoulder, as if she were his legitimate wife. The air conditioning in the hall is very strong. Worried that she might get cold, Jason took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders. "Don't catch a cold." She let him put the coat on her and playfully said, "Jason, you promised me that no matter what I want today, you would take a picture and give it to me." His tone was heavy, gentle, and affectionate. "When have I ever failed to do what I promised you?" Victoria's red lips curled up, clearly very pleased with herself. Beside them, Diana was completely uninterested in their intimacy, her eyes fixed intently on the items about to be auctioned on stage. Finally, the crystal ball is on stage. With a starting bid of 1 million, Diana, without hesitation, directly raised the bid to 2 million, looking determined to win it. The price of 1 million for this crystal ball is reasonable. 2 million is already the limit, so others will not raise the price further. She just didn't expect that Victoria would actually take a liking to it. Jason, I also like this crystal ball. As soon as the words were spoken, Jason unhesitatingly raised the bid to 3 million. Diana, her heart trembled, knowing that if it were based on strength, she definitely couldn't compete with him. Yet she stubbornly raised the bid to 4 million. Neither of the two was willing to give up, and they actually raised the price of a crystal ball to a full 10 million. The money in her hand is no longer enough. If she continues to fight, she will only face defeat. But this crystal ball is crucial to her. She can only soften her tone and look at Jason with a hint of pleading. Can you give me this crystal ball? I really like it. This was her first time asking him. Jason's eyes flashed with a hint of softness, but Victoria directly interrupted. But I like it very much too. If I can't have it, I will feel very unsettled. Because of her words, Jason's look of affection instantly faded. He frowned slightly and directly raised his card to make the lantern gesture. Making the lantern gesture means that no matter how much the other party bids, he will bid higher until he secures the item. This time, she has completely lost hope. Chapter 8. After the auction ended, Victoria happily bounced over to Jason holding the crystal ball. Oh, it's not that special of a thing. If I had known, I wouldn't have taken the photo. After saying that, she deliberately pretended to be careless and dropped the crystal ball on the ground. Shattered crystals lay scattered on the ground. Diana knelt down, picking them up piece by piece, her hands trembling as she carefully tried to put them back together. But a broken mirror is hard to mend. No matter how hard she tried, it was impossible to piece it back together. Her heart seemed to crack along with the crystal ball. No matter how much she was hurt by Jason over the years, she never felt sad. But at this moment, endless sorrow enveloped her, as if she were falling into an abyss, ready to shatter at any moment. Why? Why won't they even give her a crystal ball? She never thought about competing with her for anything. She wants Jason, and that's that. Seeing her so heartbroken, Jason casually stepped forward and said, "It's just a little trinket. There are plenty of them. If you want, I can buy you another one." She turned her head, her eyes red and glaring at him, no longer wanting to continue the act. This crystal ball is unique. Having said that, she held the fragments and turned to leave. In the following days, Diana deliberately blocked out everything related to Jason. He pretended to be asleep when she came home, and only after he left did she come out of her room. Although the two were in the same house, they hadn't seen each other for several days. Until that day, Jason got drunk at the party, and the brothers in the circle, as usual, called her to come pick him up. "We are in the twilight. Sister-in-law, please come quickly." She calmly replied to the person on the other end of the phone, "I can't come. From now on, for such matters, you can all find Victoria." After saying that, she hung up the phone without hesitation. Everyone was surprised and looked at Jason with some astonishment. "Jason, what's going on?" She used to come immediately without a moment's delay when she got a call. Could it be that the simp is starting to take charge? Jason's heart had never been so chaotic. Remembering the day they parted, Diana's red-rimmed eyes made him feel as if his heart was being clawed at, both itchy and painful. He shook off the crowd and directly got into the car, asking the driver to take him back. When she returned home, it seemed she hadn't expected him to come back so soon. She was still in the living room and hadn't gone back to her room. He took out several crystal balls from his bag and threw them in front of her. "That's enough. I've already said there are many similarities. How long do you plan to make a fuss about this?" At that moment, Diana didn't even glance at the crystal balls, nor did she speak. She simply stood up silently, intending to leave. Just then, Diana's mobile phone on the table rang. He leaned in closer and saw a text message that was the flight ticket information. He grabbed her wrist and coldly demanded, "Did you buy a plane ticket?" Where are you going? She perfunctorily found an excuse to respond. I'm tired of staying at home. I want to travel and clear my mind. Jason paused, feeling that something was off. He wanted to ask more, but his phone in his pocket rang. It was Victoria calling. As soon as I answered, her weak sobs came through the line. Jason, I twisted my ankle. It hurts so much. Upon hearing that she was hurt, all of Jason's thoughts instantly flew to Victoria. Forgetting all about Diana, he anxiously left the house and had the driver take him to Victoria's place. Naturally, the matter of Diana going away was also pushed to the back of his mind. Chapter 9. On the day she left, she called the lawyer. Today is the last day of the divorce cooling-off period. May I ask if there are any procedures I still need to complete? The lawyer replied seriously, no need. From today onwards, your marital relationship is automatically dissolved. Ms. Lee, congratulations on your new life. You are free now. Diana smiled sincerely, then gently stroked her abdomen. Yes, from now on, she and the children can finally start their lives anew. She will find a beautiful place to reminisce with the children every day. Martin. After hanging up the phone, she packed a little luggage. Most importantly, she moved away all the things related to Martin that she had collected over the years from Jason. Just as she was about to go out, she unexpectedly ran into Jason, who had just returned. Seeing her carrying her luggage, he was taken aback for a moment, then asked, "Where are you going?" She still answered as she did last time, travel. Jason recalled the flight tickets he saw last time and asked again, "Where are you going?" "I happen to be free lately. I'll go with you." His reaction surprised Lee a bit. After all, it is rare for him to take the initiative to say that he wants to accompany her on a trip. Jason seemed to feel that he was being a bit too concerned, so he instantly changed his expression and coldly explained, "Consider this a compensation for last time. Don't dwell on this matter any longer." Lee was hesitating about how to refuse. When his phone happened to ring, it was Victoria again. Her soft voice was clear even through the receiver. "Jason, I have something to tell you. Can we meet?" On a normal day, he would have immediately agreed and driven over to see her. But today, he surprisingly hesitated and refused, saying, "Maybe next time." Victoria on the other end of the phone was extremely shocked. Knowing that he had never refused any of her requests before, she paused for a moment and emphasized, "But what I want to tell you is very important." Jason raised his eyebrows in a frown and finally said, "All right. I'll come over right away." Hearing his response, Diana let out a sigh of relief in her heart. She lowered her head, fearing that her eyes would betray her. Seeing her like this, Jason thought she was upset. He coughed and said, "I know you've liked me for a long time, but I can't abandon Victoria for you. She will always be the most important. Let's forget about this trip. I'll accompany you next time." Diana knew he misunderstood again, but she was too lazy to explain. After all, it is the last day. He can think whatever he wants. Seeing her silent, he assumed she was in a bad mood, so he took the initiative to offer to take her to the airport. The car sped along the elevated road. Diana looked out the window, but in her heart, she was saying her final goodbyes. From now on, she should never return to this place again. The car stopped at the airport entrance, and as she got out, Diana held the box tightly like a treasure and walked forward. Jason unconsciously raised his lips. "Do you really like me that much? You even have to bring my things on your trip. Aren't you bothered by it?" Before she could respond, the phone beside him rang again. It was Victoria urging him to hurry over. He hung up the phone and reminded her, "Call me when you get back, and I'll come pick you up." After saying that, he opened the car door, got in, and drove away. Watching his figure disappear into the stream of cars, she smiled with a sense of relief. He won't be coming back. They will never see each other again. She took her phone out of her pocket, replaced it with the new SIM card she had already prepared, and without hesitation, broke the old one and threw it into the trash. Then, holding the box, she strode into the airport. Chapter 10. Victoria. Is this what you wanted to tell me? When Jason hurried to meet Victoria at her home, he found out that all she wanted to say was that her foot still hurt a bit, and she was afraid there might be after effects. He couldn't help but feel a bit stunned, recalling how he had just refused Diana to go on a trip, feeling inexplicably uneasy inside. What's wrong? Are you blaming me? My foot really hurts, and I'm scared being alone, so I came to find you. Then I won't trouble you next time. Victoria's voice was pitiful, her eyes filled with tears. How could this be? Your body is having issues. I'm worried that it's too late to feel troubled. Jason gently hugged Victoria. How about I take you to the hospital? No, I'm afraid to go to the hospital, Victoria said stubbornly. Come on, don't you want that bag? I'll buy you one in every color, Jason said indulgently. That's more like it. Seeing her agree, Jason immediately drove her to the hospital for a full checkup. The doctor looked and found nothing serious. The pain might be temporary and should be fine in a few days. So Jason let Victoria rest on the side while he went to pay first. Aren't you Mr. Lee's wife? Ms. Lee hasn't come for the re-examination this time either. This situation could be very dangerous for the fetus. And as a family member, you should be concerned. Jason is good-looking, tall, and somewhat conspicuous in the crowd, and the doctor who did the prenatal checkup for Diana recognized him immediately. As I passed by him, I couldn't help but remind him, fetus? Is she pregnant? Jason instinctively asked, his eyes filled with surprise. Aren't you Ms. Lee's family member? You don't even know about such a big issue as pregnancy? Last time you were injured, it was already very dangerous. You can't argue like this again. I suggest you take her for a follow-up examination as soon as possible. This is not a joking matter. The doctor's expression was very serious. As soon as the word pregnant came out, Jason's mind exploded with a loud bang. Jason stood frozen in place, wanting to ask a few more questions, but the doctor had already been called away by the nurse. When exactly did she become pregnant? Jason thought of her increasingly loose clothes and the traditional Chinese medicine she always drank. It was then that he recalled all the things that felt off. But the last time he was at home and asked her what medicine she was taking, Diana only said it was a tonic for her health. Jason remembered how he had accidentally pushed her down the stairs, and he couldn't help but feel a bit guilty. Just thinking about how helpless she was when she was pushed down the stairs made his hands tremble. Victoria suddenly walked over. Jason, why haven't you paid the bill yet? I've been waiting there for a long time. Her tone was slightly annoyed, mixed with a hint of impatience. He seemed to be oblivious to the sounds around him and began to dial the phone on his own. The sound of a disconnected tone made him even more irritable, and he dialed again. This time it wasn't turned off, but rather a busy signal, indicating that he had been blocked. Realizing this, the veins on his forehead throbbed, and he opened WeChat to send several question marks. A series of message-sending failed prompts popping up, along with a screen full of red exclamation marks, became the scythe that severed Jason's last shred of hope. He turned to walk out. Victoria quickly reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Where are you going? She stared at him, her eyes filled with confusion and urgency. Wait a moment. I'll be right back. Jason shook off her hand and ran straight out. Chapter 11. Watching his departing figure, Victoria was momentarily frozen in place, her complexion shifting from red to pale. She fiercely crumpled the medical report in her hand into a ball and threw it directly into the trash can. The malicious look in her eyes vanished in an instant. Jason hurried home at the fastest speed, running through 7 or 8 red lights. When going upstairs, he accidentally missed a step and rolled down the stairs. The sharp pain in his knee made him momentarily more alert. Despite the pain, he immediately got up and ran back upstairs, noticing that the air in the room was a bit cold and that the jasmine scent he usually loved was not lit. Jason felt very uncomfortable. Looking around, he saw that there were a lot fewer things in the room. Everything related to her had already disappeared, including the stuffed toy on the bedside and the photo that she cherished so much. Jason, unwilling to give up, opened the wardrobe drawer again, only to find that all the clothes had disappeared. Going on a trip? Do I really need to bring so much? Is she really not planning to come back anymore? Just thinking about this possibility made Jason's face instantly darken. Jason thought bitterly. Clearly, she used to love him so much. When exactly did she start to not care? He carefully recalled, but remembered her birthday spent alone, the broken crystal ball, the cancelled trip. He actually wanted to accompany her on the trip. So why has it turned into this now? Jason's eyes were cast down, his tall figure appearing incredibly fragile at this moment. Before him, the image of Diana seemed to reappear from the past few days. He took out his phone again, unwilling to give up, and sent her another WeChat message. With a ding, his heart tightened as he immediately checked. He discovered it was not the sound of an instant reply, but rather the notification of a message being rejected. It had been an entire afternoon. Had she still not pulled herself out of the blacklist? Jason's heart grew increasingly uneasy, but he clearly saw that when she left. She took many of her belongings related to him. She loved him so much. How could she possibly bear to leave him? Jason shook his head to himself, denying the absurd thought in his mind. At that moment, a phone rang suddenly. Jason immediately picked it up. Why are you only answering the phone now? Where have you been? His brows furrowed, his tone filled with concern. Jason, what's wrong with you today? On the other end of the line, Victoria was confused. It's nothing, just too busy with work. I'm tired. I won't say more. Jason hung up the phone impatiently before Victoria could say anything more, collapsing onto the bed. When he woke up again, it was already noon the next day. Jason habitually called out Diana's name, but no one responded. It was then that he realized Diana had already left. Chapter 12. Ma'am, the airplane is about to take off, and the mobile phone needs to be switched to airplane mode. We hope you can cooperate. Okay. Diana glanced at the photo of herself with Lee Martin on her phone screen before immediately turning it off. At the moment the airplane officially took off, her heart was filled with relief. Her goal had been successfully achieved. From now on, she and Jason would have no further relationship. She gently stroked her belly, her eyes filled with anticipation for this new life. The child's name is Cora Bai, which she and Martin had already agreed upon. Cora represents that Martin has always had the presence of Diana in his heart. The child is her hope, and she believes it is the only reason for her to live in this world. Suddenly, the airplane hit a bump, and the people on board became somewhat flustered. Diana also instinctively covered her belly. Everyone, please don't panic. What just happened was a normal air current effect, and there is a slight issue with the airplane's air conditioning. We will distribute another blanket to everyone now. As soon as the sound of the broadcast came through, the crowd felt a little more at ease. Diana also breathed a sigh of relief. She could indeed feel the temperature around her was a bit chilly, and she couldn't help but shiver slightly, sneezing a few times and wrapping herself tighter in the blanket. But coincidentally, when it was sent to her, the flight attendant apologetically indicated that there weren't enough spare blankets and needed to look for more. Use mine. A pleasant voice suddenly came from the front. Diana only saw a bony hand reaching out from the front. Thank you. No need to thank me. I'm not too cold. When Diana received the blanket and looked, she found there was more than one, and she felt his kindness. A warmth spread in her heart, and she immediately wrapped the blanket around herself. I don't know if it's because of the pregnancy, but Diana has become somewhat drowsy. It wasn't until the airplane was about to reach its destination. She finally woke up. Looking at the ever-changing scenery outside, Diana realized that she had truly left. Being all alone in a foreign land was a future she had never envisioned, and it required a courage she had never possessed. But she had Cora with her, so she was not afraid of anything. Diana thinking this way, her heart became even more resolute. She pushed 3 suitcases and slowly walked out of the boarding gate. But when stacking the boxes, she was a bit anxious and didn't place them properly. The box on top fell down, and she hurried to catch it, only to find that someone had already picked it up for her. Thank you. I can manage it myself. It's you again. The man's tone carried a hint of surprise. Diana instantly realized as she looked at his sleeve. He is the man who gave her 2 blankets before. Diana felt grateful yet somewhat wary. After all, being out in the world, she couldn't be sure if the other person was a good person. Or perhaps he has ulterior motives. She cannot let her guard down. As if sensing Diana's gaze, the man initially wanted to say something but ultimately just politely bid farewell. Diana also nodded slightly. She pushed her suitcase and headed straight out of the airport. After checking the approximate location of the house, Diana took a taxi and went directly there. Chapter 13. When the vehicle arrived at the villa, even the driver marveled at the house's luxury. But Diana said nothing. She simply handed over a tip that was more than double the usual amount when getting out of the car. The driver accepted the tip, overjoyed, and awkwardly thanked her in broken Chinese. "Thank you. I wish you a pleasant day." Diana smiled politely but did not speak. The driver helped her unload the luggage and left it in front of the villa's main door. Diana opened the villa's main door with the key and found the interior luxuriously decorated, with many items neatly arranged, and the floor shining. It was clear that someone had come to clean in advance. This villa was an inheritance left to her by her aunt, and it had previously been rented out by a friend from abroad. Now that I know she is coming, I immediately suggested that she move in directly since the tenant's lease is up anyway. Looking at the small bunch of bamboo hanging from the door handle, Diana felt a bit touched by her friend's thoughtfulness. Ding ding. The phone rang at the right moment. Diana took out her mobile phone and immediately answered it after seeing the contact name. "How is it? Have you arrived yet?" "Diana, I just got off work. If I weren't so busy today, I would have picked you up long ago." Lara's tone is still as exaggerated as ever, but at this moment, it makes Diana feel incredibly close. "I know you're busy, and I didn't plan to tell you about my flight." "That won't do. I am your protector since childhood. You can't get rid of me. Don't forget, you are going abroad this time to help me. Lee's supervisor." Hearing her slightly teasing address, Diana felt her mood lift, since I'm already being called a supervisor. I must be capable of it. "Really? The sketches you sent me last time have already been shown to those foreigners, and not a single one didn't praise you. They all said they wanted to meet you, especially Mr. Liu, who appreciates you a lot. I organized a party, and I'll come pick you up soon." "A party?" Before Diana could refuse, Laura had already hung up the phone, leaving her somewhat amused. After some thought, she decided to pack her luggage. Looking at the vast room, Diana suddenly felt a bit at a loss. Not knowing where to start, she realized that her refusal Laura to consider hiring a nanny before going abroad was clearly not entirely correct. After a busy day, she further validated this statement. Right then, I sent a WeChat message to Fang Shufu, expressing my demands. Seeing the quick reply on the screen, Diana finally felt relieved. Estimating the time, Diana changed her clothes in advance and waited for her. "Diana, I missed you so much." Laura immediately pulled her into the car after seeing her. "What's wrong? Are you going to be late again?" Diana was not surprised by her behavior. Laura smiled apologetically, driving while repeatedly assuring that this party would satisfy her. As soon as the two pushed open the door, someone came up to set off the fireworks. Surprise! Welcome our Lee manager. Chapter 14. Diana was startled by Laura's assistant and almost fell. She instinctively went to support her belly. Looking at the smiling Laura, she felt somewhat helpless. Diana forced a somewhat awkward smile as she looked at the circle of blonde-haired, blue-eyed foreigners. Laura didn't notice at all, and she pulled her over to this group of people, introducing them one by one. They are all members of the company project team. "This is Daisy. This is Florence. And Bella." Diana greeted each of them. Her English was fluent, and she had high emotional intelligence, leaving everyone with a good impression of her. When it came to Elias Liu, both of them were a bit taken aback. "What? Do you two know each other? Or have you met before?" Laura joked, not understanding the situation. "No." Diana glared at her and immediately said, "We had encountered each other at the airport twice before, and I originally wanted to greet her. But Manager Lee seemed to think of me as a bad person." Elias's tone carried a hint of grievance. He stared straight at Diana. Diana immediately felt a bit embarrassed. "You are Mr. Liu. I've heard about you from Laura, but I really didn't recognize you. So does that mean we are acquainted now?" Elias was the first to extend his hand and said, "Of course." Diana immediately reached out her hand. Elias's hand was a bit cold, and she couldn't help but feel a little nervous when she held it. "So you really know each other? Then I'll go ahead. You two take your time chatting." Laura winked at Diana while holding her drink and walked away. Diana could only brace herself and stay here. It wasn't until someone came to invite Elias to dance that she found the opportunity to lift her skirt and leave immediately. Looking at the diverse crowd around her, she initially felt a bit awkward, but as the music started, she gradually relaxed and blended into the joyful atmosphere. The intangible emotions that had accumulated in her heart also slowly dissipated and lightened, but she still felt a bit tired, so she put down the untouched drink and quietly slipped out to the balcony. The weather is just right now, and the breeze blowing in at night is quite relaxing. Suddenly, someone slowly walked up the stairs and came to her side. "Why are you up here alone? Mr. Shu was just looking for you." Elias handed her the juice in his hand. Diana, who was about to refuse, was slightly surprised by the juice he was holding. She quickly thanked him and took it. "I saw you didn't drink earlier, so I figured you might not handle alcohol well, so I brought you some room temperature juice." "Thank you, Mr. Liu." Diana internally admired his attentiveness but also noticed that he seemed quite different from the persona he had mentioned before with Lara. Because in her description, Elias is a cold-hearted character, but very professional, and has high demands on those around him. Diana thought at the time that this kind of personality is actually very good. One should have this attitude towards work. But seeing Lara's face full of resentment, she didn't say anything. Because of the juice, Diana also has a good impression of him. The two naturally chatted about her previous design sketches, and Elias expressed his admiration, and he gave Diana some specific suggestions, which made Diana's eyes light up. And before she knew it, she began to warm up to him. Before the party ended, Lara suggested taking a group photo together, so the two on the balcony were pushed to the front to help everyone take the picture. Elias stood beside Diana and smiled rarely. Chapter 15. Lara was very pleased when she saw this photo and immediately said she wanted to post it on her social media. Others also say the photos were taken well. Unlike the joyful atmosphere here, at home when scrolling through moments, seeing that photo of Jason felt like a thunderbolt striking. The photo deeply pierced his eyes, and his mind went blank, almost not knowing how to react. He could only magnify the image over and over. Jason looked at the photo several times back and forth. In the picture, Diana is wearing an elegant dress and smiling happily, while the man beside her slightly tilts his head towards her, with a faint smile on his face. The two of them look very intimate, and anyone would think they are a couple in love. Did she find a new man so quickly? So is that why she left so decisively? Then is that child really his? Or is she playing hard to get, waiting for him to come back to her? A series of questions echoed in Jason's mind, making it almost impossible for him to think rationally, because even he couldn't provide an accurate answer to the questions. He could only rely on guessing. He suddenly realized that he had never really understood Diana that well. Looking at the empty room in front of him, Jason felt a bit nostalgic for the times when Diana would wait for him to come home every day. She would stand in the kitchen, busy with a smile on her face, preparing his favorite dinner. She stood at the door, reaching out her hand to him, and asked, "Aren't you supposed to be leaving? Why aren't you going yet?" She sat on the sofa, dozing off while waiting for him to come home. Although he rarely came home during that time, she always obeyed herself without question. A sudden phone ring interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to see it was a message from the lawyer. He felt a bit puzzled but still quickly answered the call. "Hello, is this Mr. Jason? The divorce agreement you signed with Ms. Lee has taken effect. When you have time, you can come over to divide the premarital assets and the postmarital fixed assets." Divorce? Hearing the other person's words, Jason instantly felt as if all the blood in his body was flowing backward. "Are you kidding me? When did she divorce me? I think you guys don't want to stay in City A, right? Is divorce a decision she can make alone?" Jason was so angry that his face turned red. He clenched his fists tightly, about to explode. A single word from the lawyer made him completely break down. "Mr. Bai, please don't get agitated. Although you are not present, it was indeed done with your consent." He suddenly recalled the day she called him. It must have been that day. Jason's usually calm and composed face was completely shattered, vulnerable to the extreme. "Hello? Hello, Mr. Bai?" On the other end of the phone, Jason said nothing more. He hung up. All those memories he had ignored came flooding back. The call that he had impatiently ended that day was actually asking him to agree to the divorce. He sat on the ground, starting to drink one cup after another. But why did she want to divorce him? Had she already been ready to leave since that time? Jason, what's wrong with you? Jason was somewhat surprised to see Victoria in front of him. It should be noted that Victoria had rarely taken the initiative to find him before. She always said it was inconvenient to come to his house. After all, he was already married. Jason, why have you been ignoring my calls these past few days? You haven't replied to my messages either. I thought something happened to you. Seeing Jason coming down the stairs, Victoria immediately walked over and linked her arm with his, speaking in a spoiled tone. I've been quite busy with work lately. For some reason, Jason started to resist her actions. He withdrew his hand from hers and walked straight to the sofa to pour himself a glass of wine. Noticing his resistance, Victoria felt somewhat incredulous, her hands tightly clenched in her sleeves. But now in this situation, she found it hard to grasp Jason's thoughts. Not daring to make any further moves, she had no choice but to put aside her pride and take the initiative to speak to him. Jason, why haven't I seen Diana? Isn't she home? Chapter 16. Mentioning Diana. Jason's eyes dimmed slightly, and he replied, she went traveling. So she went traveling. Huh? I thought she. Victoria's words came to an abrupt halt, and she didn't continue. What's wrong with her? It's nothing much. Really, I just saw her hugging someone before, and now she's suddenly off traveling. I thought she was going with someone else. Someone else? Victoria's words made Jason very angry. He instantly felt that his earlier suspicions were correct. Diana must have developed feelings for someone else, which is why she suddenly went traveling. She even blocked her phone number, just to avoid being disturbed during her trip. Although he doesn't like her, Jason still feels somewhat uncomfortable with her suddenly liking someone else. He has a somewhat inexplicable possessiveness, but he is also somewhat unclear about where this feeling comes from. Seeing Jason's slightly angry expression, Victoria felt quite satisfied. She sat down next to him and started drinking with him. Jason, I actually envy Diana. She has such a good husband and yet she doesn't cherish him. Truly ungrateful. Listening to these words, Jason was also wondering why Diana would not cherish him. However, there was a slight doubt in her heart, because Victoria never used to bring up Diana's matters on her own. Even when she tried to express her dislike for Diana, she didn't seem to care much, and now suddenly bringing these things up is abnormal. Jason was determined to investigate thoroughly. He took the opportunity to gulp down a large glass of wine in front of him. Victoria wrapped her arms around Jason. She kissed him directly on the lips, but for some reason, Jason's mind kept conjuring up Diana's face. Seeing him in a daze, Victoria directly took his hand and guided it to her waist. Jason just pushed her away directly. You've had too much to drink. Victoria listened to his words of rejection, feeling somewhat doubtful of her own ears, because he had never rejected her. Whatever she asked for, he would fulfill. Jason, Victoria weakly called out. Jason looked at her face and suddenly felt a bit irritated. I'll have someone take you home. I'm not going back. Victoria's voice carried a hint of sobbing. Jason noticed it but did not comfort her. Then you can sleep here. I need to go out for a while. After saying that, he didn't wait for Victoria to respond and had already left. His voice was chillingly cold, and she dared not say anything more, only allowing him to leave. Victoria was both embarrassed and angry, and she frantically knocked over the cup on the table. Reluctant tears slowly slid down her face. Yet, as Jason walked out the door, he wandered alone on the street for a long time. He reflected on everything in his mind. Although he always felt that he truly liked Victoria, the figure of Diana still appeared in his mind. Her every frown and smile, the way her brows slightly furrowed when she felt wronged, and her icy lips. He missed everything about her. Jason realized he had become accustomed to her presence. He shook his head, trying to clear all his chaotic emotions, but it had no effect at all, which made Jason feel quite irritated. He looked down on the person he had become. The alcohol in his stomach made him feel a dull ache. In a daze, Jason saw a figure he was all too familiar with. Diana. Chapter 17. He called out and hurriedly chased after her. But the faster he runs, the faster the other party disappears, chasing all the way to the end of the alley. Jason found that the figure had completely disappeared. His eyes were slightly red. Jason finally admitted his feelings. He loves her, without a doubt. When he woke up again, Jason Bai was lying on the hospital bed. Several friends and Bai's mom were watching him with concern. Bai's dad was standing by with a dark expression, showing no signs of goodwill when he saw him wake up. What a good man has turned himself into like this. Do you still have any dignity left? I tell you, if you continue to live like this, you might as well not come back by home. I will pretend I never had you as this useless child. After a long while, he finally spoke up. I've made up my mind. I want to find Diana. Seeing his self-indulgent and decadent appearance, Bai's father was furious and could no longer hold back his anger towards him. You are now the only son of Bai. You carry the future of the Bai group on your shoulders. Yet you are immersed in romantic entanglements every day. What kind of person does that make you? Can I really trust you with everything? If you dare to go, I will sever ties with you. After speaking, Bai's dad didn't even look at him, and left in a huff, slamming the door. Beside him, Bai's mom hurriedly followed him out. He quietly stared at the ceiling, not saying a word. Jason, the matter you asked us to investigate has been found. A friend handed her the phone, indicating that he should look, and Jason took it and saw some forwarded WeChat chat records. All of them were messages that Victoria had sent to Diana. Seeing Diana's familiar WeChat avatar, Jason felt a cold sweat break out all over his body. He had done a lot of mental preparation in his mind before slowly opening the records. I found that all the photos and images were of me cooking for Victoria or spending time with her, and they were mixed with some incredibly provocative words. Diana, what does it matter if you use all your means to marry Jason? Doesn't he still have me in his heart? Are you still waiting for Jason to come home today? Doesn't it feel good to be living like a widow? If it really comes to it, you can kneel down and beg me. I might consider letting Jason come home tonight, but he is extremely annoyed with you and probably won't want to. From June to November, for several months, there were almost daily provocations like this. Jason was already blinded by overwhelming rage. Jason, we also found out some things about Victoria abroad that we think you need to know. The voice of a friend is getting quieter. Bai watched the video of the two people entwined on the screen. Victoria's face is clearly visible, and with a swipe, the scenes in the video keep changing. Some are in the car, and some are in the pool. Jason's hand holding the mobile phone gradually turned white. He suddenly smashed the mobile phone onto the ground. His heart and mind were filled with only one last thought. I need to go find Victoria to settle the score. Chapter 18. Ignoring his friend's attempts to stop him, he directly pulled out the syringe from his hand. He sped all the way to Victoria's house, and as soon as he got out of the car, he saw Victoria standing at the door. Seeing him approach, she thought he was coming to comfort her, so she immediately rushed over. Jason, you were so harsh to me last time. If you don't sincerely apologize this time, I won't forgive you. Looking at that familiar face, Jason couldn't help but recall the scene from the recent video. He could no longer hold back, raised his hand high, and with all his strength, he slapped her hard, with a loud slap. The unprepared Victoria was knocked down heavily to the ground, her fair face turning bright red and swelling up instantly. She looked up in disbelief, her voice tinged with tears. Jason, why did you hit me? Seeing her put on such a pretentious act, he couldn't help but admire her acting skills. Jason was so angry that he couldn't speak. He threw the mobile phone directly in her direction, a cold light flickering in his eyes. The corner of the mobile phone hit her forehead. Victoria was in so much pain that tears streamed down her face. She immediately picked up her phone while crying, and the moment she saw those things on the screen, the hairs on her body stood on end. Jason, I can explain. I didn't mean to send such things to Diana. I just love you too much. But I was also very jealous of her marrying you, which is why I got confused. And don't you also not love her? So what's wrong with me sending her a message? These words were like adding fuel to the fire for Jason at that moment. Seeing that she still showed no signs of remorse, Jason took back his phone, opened one of the chat windows, and played a video for her. She certainly knows what the video is about. Victoria fearfully threw her mobile phone aside. In an instant, countless thoughts flashed through her mind, and she began to explain in a flustered manner. Jason, this is not my intention. You know that I have no money, so I can only do this. Do you believe me? She looked at Jason's face, decisively crawling over to him, grabbing his pant leg and pleading, Victoria, you are really disgusting, Jason coldly said to her, who was on the ground. Hearing him say she was disgusting, kneeling on the ground, Victoria seemed to have heard something funny and laughed a few times. Just give up and let it all fall apart. Do you think you are something special? Diana, the reason for leaving is not me. Aren't you regretting it now? It's a pity that she has seen through your fickle nature. A sharp voice echoed throughout the room. This statement was undoubtedly adding fuel to the fire for Jason at that moment. He could no longer control his suppressed emotions. Walking over to her and gripping her throat tightly, pulling hard, the intense feeling of suffocation instinctively made Victoria struggle desperately, her nails scratching deep wounds on his hand. Jason seemed to feel no pain, continuing to exert force with his hands. Her complexion changed from red to blue, slowly revealing a shade of purple. Those eyes, filled with despair, slowly bulged out, exuding a sense of lifelessness. Just when she thought she was about to be choked to death, a few brothers who arrived late were so frightened by the scene that their faces turned pale, and they hurried forward to save her. In an instant, the cold air rushed back into her throat, causing her to cough uncontrollably. The completely irrational Jason still refuses to give up, and after being pulled away, he tries to move forward again. The friends who were hit a few times winced in pain but dared not let go. Jason, calm down. Don't dirty your hands over someone like this. The urgent task now is to find Diana's whereabouts. We have already tracked down her information. Hearing these words, Jason finally stopped. He took one last glance at the woman collapsed on the ground, his voice cold and somewhat chilling. Get her out of here. Make her look presentable. I never want to see her again. Hearing that he was going to send himself away, Victoria gradually regained some awareness. She endured the intense pain in her body and crawled back to Jason's feet to beg for mercy. Please spare me this time. As long as you let me go, I promise I will never disturb you again, and I won't appear in front of you and Diana. Hearing her mention Diana's name again, Jason kicked her aside. A few brothers also dared not advise, dragging her into the car. Chapter 19. Since the last party ended, Diana quickly integrated into this new company. Because her skills are outstanding, even if she were to be directly appointed as a supervisor, no one would say anything. She has connected several projects, and the clients have expressed great satisfaction. The people in the company have also begun to see her in a new light. However, considering her health condition, Fong Yushu still insisted on giving her a week of mandatory leave, although she herself really wanted to seize the opportunity and continue taking on projects. After all, she truly loves and is passionate about this industry. But since the boss granted her leave, she was also happy to relax at home for a few days. It just so happens that she can also take some time to go for her previously scheduled prenatal checkup. She usually wakes up at 7 a.m. to go to work, but today she slept in until she woke up naturally. Looking at the unfamiliar room in front of her, she is still a little unaccustomed to it, although she has started to adapt. Waking up every morning still leaves her feeling a bit dazed. Diana habitually reached for the mobile phone by the bedside, only to find it had already powered off. She immediately started charging the phone, and just as it powered up, a series of urgent phone rings sounded. She looked at the unfamiliar phone number, hesitated for a moment, but still answered it. As soon as the call connected, Jason's hoarse voice immediately came through. Diana, can we meet? Diana's sleepiness was instantly gone. Looking at her phone in slight surprise, she didn't expect it to be a call from Jason. She could only helplessly remind him, Jason, we no longer have any relationship. Diana's words pierced Jason's nerves, and he felt a bit angry. If you are still hung up on Victoria, I can assure you that she will never appear in front of you again. I know you are still angry, but I have come to find you. Haven't I? Didn't you say you wanted to travel? I can accompany you. Hearing Jason so blandly summarize the issues between them, Diana was momentarily at a loss for words. You should have received the divorce agreement, right? Stop bothering me. And as for your situation with Victoria, I don't care. If there's nothing else, then don't call again. Her cold tone made Jason explode in an instant, and he couldn't help but let his emotions out. Diana, you clearly love me so much, and now you're still carrying my child. So stop pretending to be strong. I've come to find you now. You better come back with me right away. Listen to Jason's frantic tone. Diana was momentarily at a loss for words. Her heart skipped a beat. Her hand holding the phone paused for a moment, and she decided to tell him the truth. I am Martin's ex-girlfriend, and I approached you just to have a child similar to Martin. As for your personal life, I really don't care. Proposing to you was just part of my plan. It doesn't mean I love you. Later, I tried to love you, but I found that you are completely different from Martin. And after Victoria's return, I realized we have even less reason to be together. I let you go, and I hope you can let me go too. All the assets have been left to you. We both get what we need. So let's not contact each other again. Chapter 20. Hearing her words, Jason felt as if his heart was being tightly gripped, and tears began to fall uncontrollably. Has her kindness towards him all along just been because of Martin? So Diana has never loved herself, but rather her twin brother. The items she has carefully treasured are actually all her brother's belongings. Jason suddenly remembered that the person in the photo she has always cherished is not himself, but Martin. He had originally thought that she loved him. Looking back now, it was merely my own imagination. His heart felt as if it had fallen to the bottom of a valley, with waves of dull pain that were hard to digest. Jason opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. For a moment, both of them fell into silence. The phone also fell into a long silence, so long that Diana thought he had already hung up. After pondering for a long time, Diana was the first to speak. Perhaps our marriage was originally a mistake. After all, the person you love is not me, so let's not entangle each other anymore. Entangle. It turned out that in her eyes, everything he did was just to entangle her further. From the day Diana left, Jason had already realized that he would continue to be entangled with her, because he loved her. But it was only after losing her that Jason truly discovered what his heart was thinking. He was neither accustomed to the absence of Diana's company, nor could he let go of the ambiguity with Victoria. In the constant entanglement between the two women, in the end, he lost everything. Now Diana is telling him that she only loves his brother, and that Jason is merely a substitute. He could not accept this reality. He stubbornly wants an answer to reassure himself. What if I say I can change? Diana, you can treat me as Martin. I won't mind as long as you are by my side. His tone was almost humble, something Diana had never heard before. But she remained expressionless and directly hung up the phone, blocking him in one go. Sometimes the unanswered question is the best answer. Regarding Jason, she didn't want to be involved at all. After hanging up the phone, Diana composed herself and noticed there was another missed call on her mobile phone. Planning to ignore it, but she found it was a call from Elias. So she quickly checked WeChat and saw that he wanted to discuss the latest design draft with her. She immediately typed back a response saying that she had just been busy and hadn't received his call. Elias also replied quickly, saying he would pick her up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and asked if that was convenient for her. Diana indicated that it was all right, because Lou's family and company had always had various collaborations, and she didn't want to offend this person. With his extensive professional knowledge, Diana greatly admires her. Before going out, Diana changed into a more comfortable outfit and quickly organized the materials she needed to bring. The result was that Elias brought her to a beautifully landscaped cafe, which surprised her a bit. Isn't it an entire project team? Mr. Liu, is it? Diana asked with some confusion. They all said they didn't have time to discuss the draft today, so I could only arrange to meet you. Elias Liu slightly raised the corners of his mouth and said to her seriously while looking at her face. Diana naturally understood what he meant, but she didn't call him out on it. Instead, she picked up the menu and started ordering. Since Mr. Liu is treating, there's naturally no reason to be polite. All right, Then you eat a bit more, and eat on their behalf. Elias's tone was relaxed, which made the atmosphere less awkward. Chapter 21. Diana ordered a cup of lemon tea and a piece of chocolate cake. After the two of them roughly went through the draft, she quietly sat in her seat and started eating. After finishing the large piece of cake in front of her, she actually felt a bit unsatisfied. Elias noticed this and gently pushed the cake in front of him towards Diana. You go ahead and eat. I don't really like desserts. I originally thought Diana would refuse, but she just said thank you and started eating. It left Elias somewhat stunned. After quickly finishing that piece of cake, Diana noticed his gaze. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? Aren't you girls supposed to pay attention to body management? This is the first time I've seen someone eat so easily and joyfully. Saw Diana not continue the conversation. Elias immediately explained, I didn't mean anything bad about you. I just think your eating style is very cute. Moreover, I have no opinion on girls' body shapes. One's body and appearance are entirely a matter of personal choice. Seeing him, she hurriedly explained. Diana couldn't help but laugh at him. I'm not angry. I'm just pregnant recently, so I've been eating a bit more. Pregnant? Elias spit out the lemon tea he hadn't swallowed. It made him cough repeatedly. Diana quickly handed him a tissue. Does Lou always have such a big reaction to female partners being pregnant? I don't. I'm just a bit surprised that you got married so early, and that you're here as a supervisor after getting pregnant. It must be quite tough. Elias had a noticeable disappointment in his eyes, and he was more careful with his choice of words. I've already divorced. I'll take care of the child myself. Diana's tone was very flat, making it hard to discern her emotions, while Elias was at a loss for words. You Lou don't have to worry. It hasn't stirred up any painful memories for me. I've already let go. Since the draft has already been reviewed, I'll take my leave now. Thank you for your hospitality, Lou. Seeing Diana getting up to leave, Elias immediately stood up as well. Where are you going? Let me give you a ride. It would be more convenient. Seeing him take the initiative to be the driver, Diana did not refuse, so the two of them left the coffee shop. Elias gentlemanly opened the car door, and Diana said thank you. The two of them had nothing to say along the way. It wasn't until they arrived at the hospital that Diana was not very familiar with the registration process abroad. Elias immediately offered to help, so he let Diana sit in the waiting area the whole time. He himself ran back and forth to take care of her. Even Diana's appointment doctor praised Elias nearby, saying he was a very responsible husband. Diana smiled slightly but did not explain. Chapter 22. What? Diana, are you saying you told Elias that you are pregnant? And did he take you for a prenatal checkup? Laura was quite shocked by this matter. Yeah. Anyway, everyone will find out sooner or later, so telling him in advance shouldn't be a big deal. Diana's indifferent tone made Laura feel somewhat helpless. Diana, after all these years you still haven't changed at all. Elias usually puts on a sour face for everyone, looking like he wants to keep his distance, but as soon as you show up, he immediately acts like a peacock, spreading his feathers everywhere. Can't you really notice that? Lara's vivid metaphor completely amused Diana. Is it really as exaggerated as you say? Laura, you are truly a genius with adjectives. Well, there's nothing I can do. It's just that I'm observant, you know? But seriously, you might want to consider him. I can vouch for his character. He's definitely not a jerk like Jason. Diana's eyes darkened instantly upon hearing Jason's name. Thinking back to the call he made, she felt a bit worried. But she didn't want her friend to worry about her, so she quickly suppressed her emotions. He is not my type. And besides, I have no intentions in that regard. I just want to raise Nyan well. Realizing that she had misspoken, Laura immediately changed the subject. No matter what you decide, I will support you. After all, I am Nyanma's godmother. When is your next prenatal checkup? Remember to let me know so I can take you to the hospital. Okay, don't worry. After hanging up the phone, Diana's heart relaxed for a moment. Jason's call always made her a bit uneasy, not because she was worried about anything else, but Diana was afraid he might do something extreme that could harm the baby in her belly. The tension in her heart made it hard for her to sleep well. She woke up several times during the night, tossing and turning. She dreamed that she had just given birth to Nyan Mo. Jason snatched the baby away. Diana was very anxious and immediately got up to chase. But she couldn't catch up no matter what. The immense pain and despair jolted her awake from the dream. And when she woke up, Diana had a layer of dense sweat on her forehead. She looked at her phone and found it was only 3:30 a.m. So she got up, poured herself a glass of water, and returned to bed. Recalling the scenes from her dream, she felt a bit scared and couldn't fall asleep no matter what. Until the alarm clock rang on time at 7 in the morning, Diana finally sat up from the bed, unsure if it was due to her emotions. But she felt something was not quite right with her stomach. Diana decided to go to the hospital to see what was going on. I was just about to call Lara when I found out she has a new project team meeting today, so I gave up on that thought and decided to take a taxi by myself. And then I packed my things and went downstairs to catch a taxi. But I don't know if it's because of the weather. She waited by the roadside for a full 20 minutes and still couldn't get a taxi. Where are you going? Let me give you a ride. Chapter 23. Suddenly a voice came from behind. Diana turned around and saw Elias Liu standing across the street. He was also holding a thermos. Mr. Liu, what are you doing here? I noticed you seemed to be on leave today, so I thought I'd come by and check on you. He lives near the company, while Diana is located in a somewhat remote villa area. Naturally, there won't be a situation where paths align. This sentence is both sincere and a bit awkward. I don't know why. Ever since the last time Diana said she was pregnant, Elias has become tense again when facing her. He admires her bravery a bit, but also feels some heartache for her. This is a somewhat complicated emotion, and even Elias himself is a bit confused. Seeing his concern, Diana felt a warmth in her heart. You came at just the right time. I was just about to go to the hospital, but I can't get a taxi. Can you give me a ride? All right. Let's go now. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Elias's tone was somewhat hurried. After realizing his inappropriate behavior, he awkwardly added, "You are Lara's friend and also my friend, so I naturally care about you." "I'm fine. It's just that my stomach feels a bit off, so I went to the hospital to be safe." Elias nodded to indicate that he understood. He carefully turned the car around and drove her to the hospital at a relatively smooth speed. The doctor had a good impression of them. After this visit, he directly told Elias that the baby was very healthy, reassuring him not to worry too much. Elias felt a bit embarrassed. His ears were already slightly flushed. "Don't worry. The doctor said the baby is very healthy." When he conveyed the test results to Diana, he felt a bit awkward because he hadn't corrected the doctor's words earlier. He felt a bit of secret joy but also some melancholy, afraid Diana will be unhappy. I didn't expect that. Later another family member informed the doctor when he asked the parents. Diana then pointed to Elias, which made his face turn red all of a sudden. Diana found it somewhat amusing. When he deliberately called out to him in the car, Lou will still have moments of blushing. The early education book says that this can give the baby better motivation. Don't take it to heart. How could I? I don't mind at all. Elias blurted out the answer. This made Diana burst into laughter. Good. I'm glad you don't mind. So, do you want to hear my story? Diana asked seriously all of a sudden. What? Elias was somewhat taken aback. But then he felt a bit happy, because he had thought about asking before but didn't know how to start. He felt that regarding her pain, if she was unwilling to bring it up, he would never ask about it again, even though he really wanted to know about her past. So, during the roughly 30-minute drive, Diana briefly summarized her situation with Martin and Jason. She told Elias everything in detail. Chapter 24. Elias felt a bit shocked after listening, but it was also somewhat expected. Diana has always had a relatively independent personality, so after going through all of this, she still shines brightly, which is precisely where her personal charm lies. Do you think my decision is hasty? Diana asked him. I don't think so. You are first yourself, and then you are the mother of the baby in your belly, so I don't see it as hasty. Elias answered seriously, which also gave Diana a deeper understanding of him. After getting out of the car, Elias actively picked up the thermos and handed it to her. Let her take it back to drink. Diana didn't refuse either. She just said thank you and accepted it. Watching Elias leave, Diana felt her anxious emotions improve significantly. As soon as she turned around, Diana saw Jason standing at the door, and her smile instantly froze. She instinctively covered her belly. As Jason was walking over, he felt a slight dull pain in his heart at the sight of her movements. He suddenly remembered the last time he deliberately ignored her for Victoria, causing her to end up in the hospital. It's understandable that she is on guard now. How have you been lately? How is the baby? Jason's voice was hoarse beyond belief. Diana only then noticed that Jason's face was somewhat pale, his chin covered with dark stubble, and there were dark circles under his eyes. Moreover, his entire figure had also slimmed down significantly. She felt a bit surprised deep down, but she still replied to him expressionlessly, "I've already said. It has nothing to do with you." After saying that, Diana planned to bypass him and head straight home. As the two brushed past each other, Jason suddenly grabbed her hand and pulled her into his embrace. Worried about the baby in her belly, Diana did not resist much, but instead went along with his strength. Only after he was completely steady did she then reach out to pry his fingers apart one by one, and even pat the places he had touched, her disdainful actions falling into his eyes, causing him a sharp pain in his heart. Could it be that she now hates him so much? Even his touch feels so repulsive to her? Diana actually had already prepared herself psychologically for him knowing all the truth when she left. She just thought he would be happy to finally be free from their failed marriage. He never thought that he would chase after his true love Victoria from such a long distance. But she didn't care about his feelings at all, even too lazy to say much to him. She turned around and continued walking. Jason's eyes turned red, and he couldn't help but raise his voice. "Diana! Who is that man?" Diana helplessly turned back and said, "Bye. I have made it very clear. I am not approaching you because I love you. Your affairs are none of your business. Do you really want to make this situation so ugly?" Chapter 25. Once the words were out, Jason's tears were hard to control, like a discarded puppy, looking pitifully at its owner, pleading for her mercy. When I spoke again, my voice was already choked. "Diana, you deliberately approached me because of Martin, and now you can unhesitatingly abandon me, making decisions about divorce all on your own? I was completely unaware of that divorce agreement. It cannot be valid. Why is it that, even though it's a relationship between two people, you can come and go as you please, without any regard? This is unfair to me." His tears fell quickly onto his face as he opened his mouth. Diana coldly watched from the side, looking at Jason. "Did you not have any selfish motives when you promised to marry me? Or did you marry me out of love? Moreover, after we got married, did you really consider me your wife? If you truly think of me as your wife, then think carefully about the things you've done and the flirtations you've had with others during our marriage. Jason, anyone in this world can accuse me of being scheming, but you alone are not qualified to say such things." Her tone was obviously mocking, but Jason could not refute it. The more Diana spoke, the colder her voice became, and Jason's face grew paler. After hesitating for a long time, he still couldn't give up, wanting to confirm her feelings once again. "But you have pursued me for so long. We have been married for several years. During these years, have you never had any feelings for me? Did you ever like me even a little?" After hearing this, Diana shook her head decisively, unwilling to even coax him for a moment, and directly replied, "I have never liked you. Marrying you was only to have children. Jason, our relationship is just an equal transaction. We both have our own interests. Why must we get tangled up in my feelings for you? Besides, you like Victoria, not me. Now you can finally marry her as you wished. So please stop bothering me. I like you. I've come to understand that. Diana, I look just like Martin. Can you please see me as him, okay? Please, don't leave me. As long as you promise me, I'll do anything." Diana had never seen Jason like this before. He was trembling all over, and his tone was filled with endless humility. You should know that he was once invincible by overall. There are very few times when he feels this insecure, even begging her to treat him as a substitute. He may have many sides, but this fragile side is something Diana has never seen before. It's impossible. Don't come back, or I'll call the police directly. After giving him a glance, Diana quickly averted her gaze. Without hesitation, she turned and left. Standing in place, Jason could only watch her go inside. He felt as helpless as a child. Jason never imagined they would end up like this. He touched his chest, feeling a sense of emptiness, as if he had lost something very important. Chapter 26. Hey, Jason, your family already knows about your trip abroad. You should come back quickly. The voice of his friend on the other end of the phone was urgent. Jason remained silent. Jason, did you hear me? Victoria's situation, your family also knows about it, and they are very angry. They want you to come back and explain. Hearing Victoria's name, Jason remembered her as the culprit, and his hand in his sleeve tightened slightly. Okay, I'll be right back. When the airplane landed in City A, Jason did not go directly back to Bai's house to see Bai's father, but instead had someone find Victoria first. Jason, your father is really urging you. Why don't you go back for a while? One of the friends cautiously suggested. Are you making decisions for me? Jason's voice was chillingly cold. No, everyone knows his temperament. So naturally, they didn't dare to bring it up again. Victoria, upon entering, saw Jason sitting to the side drinking. She immediately crazily dodged backwards, her voice trembling. What are you here for? Are you going to kill me? Seeing Victoria's emaciated face, Jason felt a bit nauseous just looking at her. He slowly walked in front of her, looking at her terrified face. With each step he took, the excitement in his heart deepened. Watching him approach step by step, Victoria felt as if a nightmare was descending once again. She cried out for mercy, but Jason paid no attention at all and slapped her backhandedly. A sharp cry echoed throughout the entire room. Jason, fearing to attract others' attention, quickly covered her mouth and dragged her into the inner room, slamming the door shut. Victoria, lacking the strength to resist, was still being dragged by him, crashing straight into the wall, her whole body feeling pain in every bone. She curled herself into a ball, but Jason showed no mercy, continuing to punch her repeatedly. Victoria looked up at the man in front of her, her eyes filled with increasing hatred. Pleasure spread along the nerves in his brain. Looking at his bloodied hands, Jason felt an unusual excitement. What right do you have to hate me? Aren't you just after my money? You wretched woman. These words completely plunged her into an endless abyss. She was completely consumed by the flames of hatred, and in her chaotic mind, only one thought surged. If we're going to die, let's die together. Jason! In despair, Victoria pulled a knife from the fruit plate and plunged it fiercely into Jason's abdomen. The instant the smell of blood spread, it continued to stimulate her nerves. In Victoria's eyes, there was only this man who had ruined her life. She knew clearly that this was her only chance for revenge. Her thoughts were exceptionally clear. Chapter 27. Victoria exerted all her strength to lift the knife, stabbing at him recklessly. Jason's pupils slowly dilated, his body gradually losing its support. Falling backward, Victoria looked at him in his final moments before slowly releasing the knife from her hand. Jason's consciousness slowly became blurred, and the unbearable pain began to fade away. He felt as if he had fallen into a whirlpool, his whole body feeling weightless. His eyes couldn't open, and the scene before him gradually became blurred, leaving only the interlaced flickering of black and white images. In a daze, he seemed to see Diana walking towards him. She was wearing the dress from the first time they met, and with a determined look, she asked him if he wanted to go home together. Jason reached out his hand to try to grab her, but he couldn't hold on to her at all. To be precise, he had completely lost the ability to move. The endless cold surrounded him, and he could feel the blood under his skin continuously flowing away. Only a single hot tear remained at the corner of his eye. It has been half a month since I learned about Jason's death. While shopping with Diana, Lara mentioned it casually, saying it was an accident, but didn't elaborate further. The Bai family only made these statements publicly, and even the funeral was arranged in a hurry. Diana felt a slight shock. She had been busy with a new project during this time. She rarely inquired about matters back home. Occasionally, when she and Lara would reminisce about the past, both would tacitly avoid mentioning it. Lara was afraid that it would make her sad, while Diana truly did not want to bring it up again. She always felt that period of time was like a vividly remembered dream, existing in her mind. Regarding Jason, this name, it has begun to fade from her life like those old movies from the past. She originally thought he would gradually let go of that relationship, inherit the family business as his family expected, and continue to be the charming and carefree boy he once was. He would have his own company, realizing the dreams he once had. She never imagined he would end up like this. Lara looked at her with some concern, regretting that she had let it slip. Diana, I had heard about this matter before. I intended to tell you directly, but then I thought you had already moved on, and I felt you had the right to know. In her eyes, there was only shock, and she continued to speak, but as far as I know, it seems he was tormented by that woman with the surname Tong, and he was ultimately stabbed to death by her revenge. He brought this upon himself. Diana felt a bit of melancholy in her heart upon hearing that these two people, who had completely changed the trajectory of her life, ended up in such a fate. Even if there was a brief moment of distraction, it was just a fleeting instant. After all, those were people and events from a long, long time ago. But Diana, are you really not considering accepting Elias? He is truly devoted to you and is pursuing you with all his heart. You really talk too much. I've already said that I don't have that thought right now. He's a good person, but I just don't like him. Diana playfully tapped Lara. You should think about your own matters instead of always worrying about me. All right, but the new year is coming soon. Do you have any new wishes? Tell me and I'll help you fulfill them. I definitely have wishes, but I will fulfill them myself. Diana gently touched her belly, her eyes filled with tenderness. She thought she would raise on a well, together with Martin's expectations. From now on, even if I can't see you, everywhere is you.